It's already getting chippy as tensions are flaring surrounding this exciting wildcard game, with multiple reports leading towards a bloodbath on Sunday afternoon. And we'll give our thoughts on a preview episode of Eagles Digest as we break down the most important matchups for this wildcard game. What's going on, guys? Alex Brooks alongside Jack Kieley for another edition of a preview episode regarding the Philadelphia Eagles, a special playoff edition of this preview, as hopefully we're going to give you a lot more of these preview episodes, but we wanted to come on here and share our thoughts. But before we get into all of that, here is a word from our sponsor. Before we get into all the news today, this video is brought to you by Kalshi. When you download Kalshi using the link below and enter the code DIGESTNFL, you'll get $20 when you trade your first $100. Kalshi is the largest prediction market in the United States. On their platform, you can trade yes or no on real-life events, whether it's sports, elections, news, and pretty much anything that you can think of is right there for the taking on Kalshi. And whether you're in California, Texas, or Philadelphia, like a lot of Eagles fans are, Kalshi is now live in all 50 states. For sports fans, you can trade on game outcomes, playoff chances, or player performances, all in a regulated market where you can cash out at any time. For example, for Eagles fans, the Eagles have a 65% chance to win against the 49ers in their wildcard game. So if you feel like that should be a little bit higher, go in and join in on all the action that Kalshi has to offer. The Eagles sit at the third best team in the NFC to win the Super Bowl. I definitely feel like they should be the best team, being the defending Super Bowl champions. So if you feel passionate like I am, get in on all the action when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's genuinely a smarter way to use your sports or news knowledges, and you can close position whenever you want to. So download Kalshi with the link in the description, and don't forget to use the code DIGESTNFL to get your $20 bonus. And thank you again to Kalshi for sponsoring this video. And for everyone else, let's get back into this episode. And getting right into this episode, this preview episode of the Eagles versus 49ers matchup. You know, Jack, I did speak with Ethan on 49ers Digest to kind of, get his thoughts on this matchup. And he was definitely kind of in the same mindset that we are. We have some shaky confidence going into this matchup because it is very, we know that the defense is doing really well for the Philadelphia Eagles, but the offense has been very questionable. And it's like, which offense are we going to get on Sunday?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a big question going to this, Alex. It's been a very streaky offense, as we can tell this season, but it's had its moments, especially against the Minnesota Vikings, and in their second matchup, I should say, against the New York Giants. That was definitely the best I have seen in just the offensive play calling all season, and I guess you could say from all around the players, where Smitty, Ade, Saquon, Jalen, they were all putting up the numbers that they usually would, and that would be expected. But this game is going to be, I think, a clash between coaching. It's going to be Kyle Shanahan versus Kevin Patullo, and Kevin Patullo has got a job to do tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I mean, he is definitely under the most pressure, I would say. I mean,
definitely.
he is one of the X factors with not messing it up. He's definitely someone who is just kind of on the hot seat right now regarding the city of Philadelphia. So he's got to show up, and he's got to make sure he can put his, offensive playmakers in the best position. But, we kind of talked about some of the injuries that were going on this week regarding this Eagles team. Coming off of the Commanders game, there was some injuries that we really needed to monitor. The Eagles went with the decision to rest the starters, which we both, kind of voiced our support for Nick Sirianni to rest those starters so we can be fully healthy. Well, it's looking like a really good decision by Nick Sirianni, as this was from Dave Zangaro on NBC Sports Philadelphia, saying the two players who were not practicing on Thursday, Landon Dickerson and Brett Toth, were stretching with the team on Friday and had helmets, which means all 53 players were there. It also means that the Eagles should have 21 of 22 starters available against the 49ers on Sunday, assuming Lane Johnson makes his return. That is the expectation. And right now, Lane Johnson is set as questionable for this game. But Jack, I mean, we've talked about how much of a warrior Lane Johnson has been throughout his career, throughout this season. Do you expect him to play on Sunday, or do you think it's kind of going to be a game time decision? And where's your confidence at that he can perform at a high level?
Well, I would say that Lane Johnson is absolutely he wants to play.
Yeah.
I don't know if Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo and Jeff Stoutland are, maybe kind of holding him back there, but Lane Johnson's a guy that has played through injury before in multiple important games, and I do think that he will play tomorrow. He could be on, I would say, somewhat of a like kind of a snap rotational
Mhm.
basis thing where they might put in Brett Toth or they might put in Fred Johnson a few times, who, to their credit, when they have come in for the starters, I think that they've done a really, really great job, especially Brett Toth. So it's great to see that he's happy and most of our depth happy, healthy. Most of our, I'm sure he's
Happy
happy,
and healthy.
but
Yeah.
yeah, happy and healthy, exactly. But yeah, it's great to see that the depth guys are also very healthy. But I am fully confident that Lane Johnson will play tomorrow. And again, I think he will be on. Maybe they'll take him out for a few snaps just to give him a breather, make sure that he's okay, because I think we're forgetting that Lane Johnson is old for an
Yeah.
NFL player, right? Like he's in
Yes.
his mid 30s now, I believe, and he's old. Like he's getting up there, but he is still one of the elite offensive tackles in the NFL. We saw this year that unfortunately he did not make the All Pro team. I don't believe he made the Pro Bowl either, but of course, that's obviously due to injury. We know how good
Yes.
Lane Johnson is and how good Jordan Mailata is, but this offensive line was banged up this year, and I do think that they're going to perform well tomorrow. It is a very depleted Niners defense. Nick Bosa is going to be out for the season. He injured himself early in the regular season this year, as did Fred Warner, and that's a big advantage that the Eagles are going to have to take advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, Lane Johnson being in there and the whole offensive line is being in there. There's no excuse that Saquon Barkley can't get involved in the running game. And I think that's
Definitely.
what, Kevin Patullo, Nick Sirianni, and this Eagles offense needs to really prioritize is that if Lane Johnson is in, start doing more rotationals with Saquon Barkley and Tank Bigsby to get those guys going and get those guys in the running game. And, when we
Definitely.
kind of talk about, the X factors of these games, we both decided that we are going to do one on the defensive side of the ball and we're going to do one on the offensive side of the ball. So, Jack, your X factor, Jalen Phillips, kind of just going to throw it out to you. What do you feel like with Jalen Phillips, how much of an impact he is going to make on the Eagles advancing and winning this game against the San Francisco 49ers?
Well, Alex, ever since Jalen Phillips was acquired from the Miami Dolphins and Howie Roseman got him, his impact has just been immediate. There hasn't been a game where he hasn't made a game-changing play. I mean, you can see here in only 8 games played this season, he's got 14 tackles, 2 sacks, 4 passes, 4 pass deflections. He's going out there in coverage. He's got 1 forced fumble and recovery, and in only 8 games, he's tied for third in pressures among the team, which is crazy in only 8 games.
Yeah.
Other guys like more pressures than guys like Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter, Moro Jomo, and even Josh Uche, just all the guys on the defensive line. And I do think that he's the X factor because, well, it all starts up front on defense, right? I mean, the defensive line is that's the first line of defense that is going to make a play on the game. And of course, Jalen Phillips is probably going to be lined up against Trent Williams, who is the best offensive lineman in the NFL. He's one of the greatest offensive linemen of all time. And obviously, that is going to be a huge challenge going into this game for Jalen Phillips, going up against a guy like Trent Williams, and taking him out of the game is not going to be any kind of treat. But I do think he's going to do a really great job tomorrow. I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. And I really think he's going to make sure that he makes his statement known, because he has a chip on his shoulder, being that he has missed 2 seasons of his career due to injury. And
Yeah.
coming to the Philadelphia Eagles now, he has showcased why he is one of the best pass rushers in the league. And I think he's going to do that tomorrow against Trent Williams.
And also, yeah, when you're mentioning Trent Williams is going to be on the other side of the ball, he's a game time decision right now, but, the same with Lane Johnson. I mean, Lane Johnson and Trent Williams are going to play. If the season's on the line, both of those guys are going to be out there. And when you're
Definitely.
looking at Jalen Phillips, I mean, he's also playing for a contract. So he's playing either for a contract with another team or with the Philadelphia Eagles. So he has to show both the Eagles and the league that he can be this, X factor type of pass rusher that can get to the quarterback and really pressure them. So Jalen Phillips, there's a lot of pressure on him to perform because, he wants to have a great contract, and, you make the big bucks when it comes to the postseason. And if you're able to do that, we saw with Zach Bond last year with his incredible season and performance, he was able to get a contract extension with the Philadelphia Eagles. And, when we kind of talk about his PFF grades, when we look at from the Green Bay game all the way down to the Buffalo Bills game, I mean, he made an instant impact when you're looking at that 79.2 in run defense. That was his best in his season with the Philadelphia Eagles. But when we're kind of looking at that, I mean, the one thing that I would say is his downfall is his tackling. I mean, you're looking at what he hasn't been able to do in the tackling game in Washington and in Buffalo. But the thing is, when you're an edge rusher, you want to make sure you're getting pressure and you're trying to improve on the pass rush and the run defense. You're not someone who is going to really like tackle a lot unless you're sacking the quarterback. So I think that's something when you look at this edge rush group and with Jalen Phillips, it's made an instant impact and it's made this Eagles defense be kind of, middle of the pack, maybe top 10 into like a top 5, top 3 unit in the league.
No, most definitely. Another underrated aspect of Jalen Phillips' game that he did have in Miami, in a sort of a lower role, he was a great guy to put out in coverage, going up against like maybe some of the tight ends or maybe covering some of the like pass catching not linebackers, running backs. And I think that's a really underrated part of his game right now. I mean, if we go back, we can see that he deflected 4 passes this year, which is not something that defensive ends do in this game. That's not something that a lot of them do. They drop into coverage. Some of the elite guys do that, of course, which Jalen Phillips could certainly push his way into if he proves himself tomorrow against Trent Williams and the San Francisco 49ers. You look at guys like Andrew Van Ginkel and TJ Watt, those kind of guys that are great pass coverage edges. And I do think that Jalen Phillips can really incorporate that into his game. And I think he's in the perfect system for it with Vic Fangio working with him back in Miami. And I think that they've really, really worked together well this year. And it's really shown why on the field they're really producing on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, definitely. And when we're moving over to the offensive side of the ball, I mean, the number one X factor that, I've said in this episode, I've said over the past couple of weeks is Saquon Barkley. I mean, the way that Saquon Barkley was able to transform this Eagles team since the moment he got here in 2024 from the New York Giants, he has made an instant impact on how this Eagles offense identity is. He hasn't had the best season this year. He's been over 1,000 yards, which is a great accomplishment in himself. We obviously know from the 2,000-yard rushing season in 2024, I mean, comparing any other season to that would be, he would not be able to compare because that would just be a failure in his eyes. But at the end of the day, Saquon Barkley, 16 games played in 2025, 1,140 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns. And the one thing that I'm looking at right now is 4.1 average yards per rush. I think that is, one of his worst in his whole career. When we're looking at his time back with the New York Giants, he obviously had, I think, a 5.8 to a 6 yards per rush last year, which was unbelievable. But, 4.1 average yards, that's, really not gonna, that's kind of league average, but that's not going to cut it in Saquon Barkley and this Eagles offense in order to get going in this game. I mean, I'm saying right now, if the Eagles are able to get 130 plus yards out of Saquon Barkley, they are going to win this game and they're going to win it in dominant fashion. I mean, a 3-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, 2024 AP Offensive Player of the Year with his, fantastic 2,000-yard rushing season. I mean, he is still he hasn't lost a step. It's just the Eagles offensive line needs to produce, and Kevin Patullo needs to put him in the best position. I know that, Jack, you're chuckling right now, but it's what's we've been kind of talking about a lot is the frustration that Saquon Barkley hasn't been able to get going.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Alex. I'm just laughing because like I know tomorrow I'm just gonna see so many runs just straight
Straight
up
up
the
the
middle,
middle. Yep.
and I'm just like, it's giving me like PTSD from Brian Johnson. Like
Yes.
I just don't want to see that tomorrow because I'm thinking about the wild card game against the Bucks 2 years ago and how I turned off the game like in the third quarter. I just don't want to think about that right now. And but yeah, you're totally right. Saquon Barkley needs to come playing tomorrow, and the big narrative for him is that. He had 1,400 total yards this year in rushing and receiving, and when you take that into comparison with his over 2,000 scrimmage yard season last year, that's the thing that people are talking about. And if any other running back in the league had over 1,400 yards, I mean, they'd be crawling on the ceiling like screaming like the choir. Like everybody
Right.
would be happy with any running back about that. But it's only because it's Saquon Barkley. People are saying, "Oh, Saquon sucks this year. Saquon's bad." He's not bad. He's just not what he was last year. And not every running back is going to do that every single year unless you're like the best of the best, which Saquon, of course, is one of the best in the league right now. But, that's the thing with an offensive coordinator. He's kind of just going to change the scheme. That might mess with your head mentally a little bit, like Saquon might be expecting some things in the blocking scheme and, stuff like that doesn't happen. And it kind of switches the way that he thinks mentally on when he needs to cut back, what gap he needs to run through and where he needs to go around in the routes in the offensive line.
Yeah, and him getting to the second level, he's one of the best running backs in the world at getting to the second level when all the blocking is doing what it needs to do. And he's able to hit those home run type of runs that not a lot of running backs, if any other running back, can do at an effective level like Saquon did last year. And when we kind of look at just the breakdown, this is from Elliot Shore Parks, an insider for the Philadelphia Eagles. We kind of wanted to just talk about this a little bit, that he has kind of said, like, oh, Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy are kind of in that elite type of tier. But, Jack, we were talking off screen regarding these rankings. Where would you kind of say, like, he isn't really hitting the mark on this certain topic here?
Well, for most of them, Alex, I do think he hit the nail on the head. But for some reason, my eye is kind of squinting at the coaching here. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, Nick Sirianni is a great coach. He's a big culture guy. He's not, of course, the play caller. He hasn't taken on play calling duties ever since he became the head coach in his first season. But Kyle Shanahan is one of the best coaches in the NFL. He's top three, if you ask me, next to guys like Andy Reid. But and I think that, I mean, I'm not trying to like diminish Sirianni here, but I think that meter should be like a little bit of a wider margin there, because Kyle Shanahan is like on like a different level. He's one of the
Yeah.
best play callers in the league, defensively and offensively. I know Salah's the defensive play caller, but like Kyle Shanahan is one of the best minds in football,
Mhm.
and he just finds a way to win games that he's not supposed to. And he's done a great job with the Mr. Irrelevant and Brock Purdy, bringing him to the level that he's become.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're looking at just the comparison with coaching, I mean, Vic Fangio obviously has a big time impact in how the coaching is kind of ranked. But I mean, when we're looking at Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh, both of those coaching duo right there, I think that's better than the Eagles having that blind spot with Kevin Patullo at their offensive side of the ball, because that's going to be the most important matchup when we're looking at Patullo
Yeah.
versus Saleh as well. And Robert Saleh had some interesting comments to talk about Kevin Patullo. He was saying, regarding a question regarding Saquon Barkley in the schematics, he said, I'm going to skip that question from a schematic standpoint. I still think he is elite. And, a lot of people are saying that this is taking a shot at Kevin Patullo, which we can kind of, go back and forth with. But at the end of the day, I mean, we can't really disagree with what Robert Saleh is saying, because it hasn't looked good. It hasn't been looking as dominant as it was last year, even in the passing game and in the running game. It just needs to be a consistent 4 quarters of football, because if you take any quarter off, whether it's the third quarter, fourth, especially the fourth quarter, but if it's any quarter in this game that the Eagles are not able to at least score a field goal, it's going to be a long day, and the Niners are going to get back in this game, and they might even win this game on the road.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to. I hate to agree with the opposing team's defensive coordinator here, but I
Yeah.
mean the numbers don't lie, Alex. Like we have elite offensive weapons. Like we have Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, DeVonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, and these guys are averaging like career low numbers this year. As
Yes.
soon as they switch over from Kellen Moore, who's done a great job, credit to him, as the head coach in New Orleans, who was a great offensive coordinator last year, and I was pained to see him leave. That really hurt. And like again, like I said, the numbers don't lie. Robert Saleh, he has a point. We have these elite players, and they're averaging career low numbers. And this is a testament to Kevin Patullo and his lack of ability to have any variability in this offensive scheme so far this year. And it's why he's on the hot seat. He's on the hot seat for a good reason. And he has this. This is his moment tomorrow to prove it, to
Yes.
prove why he should be the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. And if they lose this game tomorrow, he is getting booted out of Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, he probably won't even make it on the bus if Kevin Patullo does not
Probably not,
put
Alex.
up a big performance and really just clutches up. I mean, people are saying like he might just have some plays up his scheme that he doesn't want to give out to the opposing players. Well, if you do, show your cards tomorrow, because it's do or die, and you need to make sure that you can go out there and have your guys in the best position to win. Because if the Eagles offense is flying high, I mean, I like, it may be a bias coming out, but I don't see a team stopping this defense or this
Yeah.
offense if everything is clicking all at once. But that's going to do it for a preview episode of this Eagles and 49ers matchup. We're going to have more coverage surrounding this Eagles and Niners matchup on this channel, so stay tuned for that. Just wanted to raise the question to you guys regarding the Eagles and Niners matchup, saying who is going to be the biggest X factor on Sunday. We gave Saquon Barkley, we gave Jalen Phillips. So let me know what your biggest X factor is regarding this Eagles and 49ers wildcard game. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And as always, let's go Birds.